Hey, there we are. Good morning, everyone. Happy Easter 2020. This is our Easter Sunday fellowship, but it's not going to be the normal Easter Sunday fellowship. We have things that Father wants to say, and he's not saying it with Easter eggs and Easter bunnies. Well, thank you for joining us this morning, Sunday Fellowship on Easter Sunday in 2020. Last Sunday, we had a lot of technical difficulties. So much so that the message we had last week was pretty much unusable. Some said that they could hear what we were saying, but we had the video part wasn't working. It was a still shot, so we were looking. They were listening to everything that was said, but they couldn't see us. The walk on the pier, some saw walk on the pier. So what I was led to do, instead of trying to fix last week's, the Father gave me some new insight on some of the things we were talking about last week. I had a great time in fellowship this week. I had a tremendous time in fellowship this week. I talked with Monica and Lopez. I talked with Jim. I talked with Jimmy. Talked with Pete. The Friday we had a big time. Dwight was with us. He and I had breakfast this week. I had a phone call with David Griffin. We had a nice time of fellowship, he and I. So, man, this week I was really, really, really busy with conversation and fellowship.
And you had your blessed wife, daughter, son-in-law.
Yeah, them too.
James.
Yeah, he was here. Jim was here. Messing stuff up as he normally does. Taking stuff down, breaking stuff. But that's part of change and exchange. You need to have stuff happen. You guys ought to know that. Stuff happens. If you don't know it, you will. Right, Jenny? That's correct. Anyway, so I set the message up for this week, and it was called Part 2. And the Father took me about the middle of the week and said, no part 2. This is what I want you to do. So I went up and took the message from last week on YouTube down. I deleted it. I didn't delete. I think I deleted the walk on the pier. So everything we had from last week no longer exists, at least online. So with that said, we're here today to not to redo, but share what the Father's given us on FOMO 2.0 and what that means. I've got some good time of verses that I didn't use last week in fellowship and talking with different ones. There's some really good insight. I've got some examples. I got permission to use people's examples without using their name. Pete said I could use his name, so I'm going to throw his name under the bus. But don't worry, brother, I won't get you burned under the muffler. The muffler will not burn you. It's one thing to be thrown under the bus, but it's another thing to get burned by the muffler while you're under there. That's tough. Get the tire track so you didn't get muffler burned on top of it. But anyway, with that said, we're going to start. We're going to read. My lovely wife here will read today. And this is your uncommon Easter message. But it really is a spiritual message, so I guess it is in that regard. Yeah.
Shall we begin?
Well, yeah, I guess we should.
1 John 4:18, such love has no fear because perfect love expels all fear. If we are afraid, it is for fear of punishment, and this shows that we have not fully experienced his perfect love. Our message this week is on FOMO 2.0 and its power to affect you and your identity. Brother Kurtis and I did the original message on FOMO in May 27, 2018, almost 2 years ago. What was said then is still true today, except it has moved to a deeper level of living and identity, FOMO 2.0. This is an acronym which means fear of missing out. Definition of FOMO. Fear of missing out, or FOMO, is a pervasive apprehension that others might be having rewarding experiences from which one is absent. This social angst is characterized by a desire to stay continually connected with what others are doing or saying. FOMO is also defined as a fear of regret, which may lead to a compulsive concern that one might miss an opportunity or social interaction, a novel experience.
The FOMO that Catherine just read, I'm pretty sure we had that last time in the May message that Kurtis and I did. The difference in this definition, which is FOMO, is that 2.0, all this is inherent in the individual. Not that they're missing out on actions with others, but that they're missing out of being who they are themselves in the flesh. So FOMO 2.0 takes this to a personal level of one's identity and oneself. So I want to throw it in there because there's a difference. We'll get to that in a minute. Please continue.
Okay. A novel experience, a profitable investment, or other satisfying events. Self-determination theory asserts that the feeling of relatedness or connectedness with others is a legitimate psychological need that influences people's psychological health. In this theoretical framework...
Now, I want to interrupt just 1 second. Asserts that a feeling of relatedness and connectiveness with others is a legitimate psychological need that influences people's psychological health. 2.0, that connectiveness is you. The connectedness that you're not, the issue in 2.0 is not that you're interested in being connected with others as much as the connection between you and your identity of you from the past. And we'll have a little bit more on that. So I wanted to relate that everything that's being said is related to FOMO in the context of others. But this in 2.0 relates to the context of you, the one you look in the mirror, the one you're connected to as yourself. That's what 2.0 does that FOMO in the past did not address. Okay.
In this theoretical framework, FOMO can be understood as a self-regulatory state arising from situational or long-term perception that one's needs are not being met. Mm-hmm. FOMO 2.0 is the feeling of relatedness or connectedness to oneself. Where does FOMO 2.0 come in? FOMO 2.0 is the need to preserve one's personal identity, which fits who we are, and the fear of losing it. The person we have lived and learned and found as our security. This can be conscious or subconsciously lived. Another way to say it is FOMO 2.0 is the survival of me, myself, and I, as I know.
Okay. And I was going to put it as I know me, but I've already said me, myself, and I. But as you can see in this definition that we're using, the whole context is the fear of losing yourself, the fear of not being recognized as yourself, but more so the fear of keeping you as you know you. I was telling this to Dwight when we had breakfast together. We talked about some of this then. We're in a move of the Spirit. I think I said this Friday at our luncheon. And this move of the Spirit, the Father has taken us into places that we've not been before. At least I haven't been. Some of you might have been there, but I haven't been there before. I've been in the move of the Spirit before and when I first came into the revelation of Christ and the Christ life back in 1983. And I had never been in the move of the Spirit before. There's a lot of things I didn't know. A lot of things was new to me. But one of the things as time went on and that revelation of Christ came, I found out there was a great pull on my identity as me and how I was listening to many at that hour, and even today, many people seek to preserve their identity, the person that they know, the person that they've grown up to be in the flesh. the identity of the one from the box I operate in. Now, whether you understand that or not, whether you believe it or not or receive it, that's between you and the Father. But I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of people. I'm around a lot of people daily, weekly. I travel and go to different places. And the most dynamic thing is I listen to people. I constantly hear about who they are from their past. I hear stories, and we'll get to this in a second when we get to the impact of environmental contamination. Your environment that made you who you are. There's things that you do every day. As you're watching me at this very hour, there's things that you did this morning that you get up and do the same thing every day. You do it the same way. You can't think any other way. Why is that? You've grown into that. As Catherine was telling me this past week, we were talking about this a little bit. She said, most people do that, have been doing these things their whole adult life, and even maybe before then. Mm-hmm. So your behaviors, the way you do, the way you talk, the way you answer the phone, or the way you hear things, your initial response, that's learned. Mm-hmm. If you 30, 40, 50, 60, we got some 70-year-olds in this. A lot of these things, you've been living that way, and it's common. And you'll do whatever it takes to preserve you. So growing up, we'll get to this in a second too. Spiritual maturity will never happen. It just won't happen. But the good thing about this move of the Spirit, the Father has set before us. I mean, we've had a lot of things happen in the last 5, 10 years, last 3 or 4 years. Some of you jumping in now. Some of you jumped in 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago. But the bottom line is the process that the Father used, is at work no matter where you come in. Kurtis said that at the Sonship, and I did at the conference. He said, you can enter this at any place, and you can. The issue is this: no matter where you enter, you're going to go through the same thing that everybody else is going through. He's going to deal with you at the same way he's dealing with everybody else. Your situation might be different, but the means by which he does is the same. It's all spiritual. So FOMO 2.0 protects you from the process of sonship that you don't like. There's parts of you like, oh, praise the Lord, amen, God bless you. But there's parts of you, and that's the part that you will protect. You will not own it, and we'll get to that in a second. Because Pete did something this past week that really blessed me to hear him say that. But if you can't own it, you will never grow spiritually. You will never grow spiritually. Mm-hmm. And that's painful. Mm-hmm. It's painful to want and not to grow. It's painful to stay where you are. Do I get it cut out, or I just suffer with the pain? That's your decision. That's not mine. Okay.
Maybe you move on beyond it, whatever it is. You don't feel the pain. You don't cut out.
It's going to cost you something. Yes, spiritual maturity will cost you something. And we'll get that's in the notes too. It'll cost you. Trust me, it'll cost you. It will. You can pray, you can fast.
But maybe it'll cost you more not to.
Well, you don't. But if you could see that, then it wouldn't be so difficult. The problem is you can't see that. You can't control it. Mm-hmm. So let's read that. All of this is in the notes anyway.
The pulls of FOMO 2.0 are deep, rooted, and strong within the heart and mind of a person. You'll know this person because they will become offended if they think, feel, or believe you're trying to stop or hinder them from living or being themselves.
Now, the key is being themselves. Whatever self they are to themselves, that's where the offense comes in.
Mm-hmm. They see this as an attack of their personal identity. In the flesh, of course. Let me say that again. The deep root of one's personal identity draws its strength and power from the need to live as me. FOMO 2.0 of what? Of anything or everything that gives our personal identity, meaning, significance, and reason for living. FOMO 2.0 demands the praise of men, or missing out of the praise or pleasing of men.
You can you just read one or two, any one of you want. Galatians, read the one from Galatians.
Galatians 1:10, for do I now persuade men or God, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet pleased men, I should not be the servant of Christ. There is no difference in FOMO 2.0 of someone being an LGBTQ or man-made religion of Baptist, Methodist, or Catholic. The need to be me and identified with something which protects my perceived identity.
Now, let me quickly comment on that one. That's probably, as I said, we were talking about this before we got started, and that's a head snapper. I mean, that'll just snap people's neck. What did he say? You just snap your neck right off. You mean there is no difference between LGBTQ and the man-made religion of Baptists, Methodists, Catholics? No, it's not. It's the same. There's no difference. They're the same. Now, if you're a good Baptist, you might argue with that. Jenny used to be a Baptist. Jenny, if I said that in the Baptist church, they'd probably throw me out of there because the Baptists believe they're right. They don't believe it. They know they are. But there's no difference.
You'd be thrown out.
Yeah? Oh, yeah, probably would be thrown out. Yeah. But let me give you an example. The Bible speaks about certain things in the LGBTQ. They speak against it, but it's there. I haven't found a place in my Bible that God talks about being a Baptist, Methodist, or Catholic. They have no scriptural base for that. No biblical base for that, I should say. At least the LGBTQ got some things in the Bible that speaks against those things. But anyway, both have a need to preserve identity. Both have a need to provide an identity. So, keep going. Thank you.
The fear of missing out 2.0 can and does control our identity, obedience, and confirms who we are. We are under the control of the master of the lusts of the flesh. The voice which continually reminds us of who we are, what we need, and how much and badly we need it. 1 Corinthians 14:10, there are, if may be, so many kinds of voices in the world, and none of them is without signification. 1 Timothy 4:1, now the Spirit seeketh expressly.
Speaketh expressly, right?
Yeah, the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils.
There's a lot I could say on that, but I'm not going to.
Impact of environmental contamination. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I am going to talk about this.
Over the past 15 to 20 years, I've been asked a question about the impact of the environmental contamination of the person's past.
Oh, that's spelled wrong.
Past. The question is this. Do you think a person's environment that they grew up in can determine or impact their walk with God or the Lord? My answer has continued to evolve as I came to know, realize, and understand sonship. Let me explain. Can the environment? Far too many of us, as the Son and the sons of God, need to be called by a name which appears to give us identity and significance before men. When this happens, we deny our new spiritual identity as another person to ourselves and to others. Yes, the Father knows who we are to Him as the Son. That's a good thing, and we can't do anything to destroy our position or identity, which came by spiritual birth.
Okay, let's go back. That's good. Let's go back up a little bit, Jim. Let's go up a little bit on that. Right there. So the question, and I've been asked this question a lot of times over the years, it has come from different brothers and sisters and non-believers, and I've been in this. And people just seem to ask the question, do you believe or do you think that a person, how they grew up, affects who they are, affects how they live? And the answer to the question is simple. Can a person's environment determine who they are and how they live? The answer to that question is yes. Simply. You can. You grew up, and the impact, the title of this was the impact of environmental contamination. Now, I didn't specify what contamination is, because we're going to talk about that for a second right now. We think, because of man-made religion, we think an environment where, let's say, people don't go to church is a bad environment. or an environment where there's drinking or alcohol or drugs. We think that that's bad. A lot of things that are flesh-based living, as we see. So you grow up in that environment, but also don't forget there's also an environment that everything there is, there's going to church, there's family time, there's spending time together as a family. We have all those things, but we have what is called psychological abuse, or mental abuse, or physical abuse. A lot of those things are subjective. You have a parent that says no to their kids quite often, and the kids seem like they are not having the things that other kids get. They can see that as psychological abuse. You always say no. When I want to go be with my friends, you tell me no. So like I'm saying, it's subjective. But there is physical abuse, or what is called physical abuse, although back in the day we used to get a spanking. We used to get whippings. Today, you tell somebody you whipping or spanking your kids, they call child protective services. Could you believe he's spanking his kids? So contaminated environments is subjective in the sense that it's what others see as not good for them, so therefore it's not good for you. But there are some true things. My answer is very simple. Yes, your environment, a person's environment, can determine that, because they respond to those things in the environment based on where they are as a child, based on where they are as an adolescent, based on where they are as a teenager. So their reaction and response, they develop a mechanism to protect themselves. That mechanism we're talking about today is FOMO 2.0. The fear of missing out, of me being me. When some of you, all of you that are parents, if you have teenagers or you had teenagers at one time, there's a transition. You can see it when they're 6, 7, 8 years old, from when they're 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. There's a big difference in their emotional and psychological approach to things. And so you never let me do this, or you never let me do that, or as a child, you have a child that is in that environment can be needy, because mom's working, dad's working, and they don't get the attention they need. And so because of that, you have this idea, you have this idea that you have a need. Your me needs to be cared for. Mm-hmm. And so all through your life, you grow up with that need. That's what one of the reasons we have what we call needy people today. Men can be just as needy as some women. Needy. What do you mean by needy? They need attention. Mm-hmm. And you have those that do the opposite. They are enablers, because there's a need to take care of everybody. Right. So all these things are true, but there's a truth behind this. And my answer to those questions is yes, the environment can be that. It can develop that. But God has made a way of escape. As 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13 says, there is no temptation, no testing given unto men that is not common to a man. But with every temptation, with every test, God makes a way of escape. And that way of escape is spiritual birth, taking on, becoming another person, and learning to live out of the new identity that we have spiritually. That ends environmental contamination in the flesh, mm-hmm. and begins a new environment in the spirit. The problem is, it's going to cost you yesterday to learn to live who you are today spiritually. So, let's go on, because I've got something here a little bit more on that.
2 Timothy?
Mm-hmm.
2:19. Nevertheless, the foundation of God standeth sure, having this seal: the Lord knoweth them that are his. And let every one that nameth the name of Christ depart from iniquity. The fear of missing out 2.0 can and does control our identity, obedience, confirms who we are in 2.0. We are under the control of the master of the lust of the flesh, the voice which continually reminds us of who we are, what we need, and how much or bad we need it. 1 Corinthians 14:10, there are, if...
No, you can skip that. We already done that anyway.
Okay. This can happen in spite of our declaration of sonship and revealed knowledge. This is FOMO 2.0. Jesus and Paul said it this way. Matthew 16:24, then said Jesus unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Deny, to affirm that one has no acquaintance or connection with someone, to forget oneself, lose sight of oneself and one's own interests.
Okay, look at that. Deny himself. What does that say? Deny himself?
Deny himself.
To affirm that one has no acquaintance or connection with someone. Mm-hmm. No acquaintance with who you were. Mm-hmm. No connection with who you were in the past. If any man be in Christ, he's what?
New creation.
Old things have passed away. To forget oneself, lose sight of oneself and one's own interest. If you lose sight of your own interest and take up the interest of another, you know what that's called? Servant. We'll get to that definition later on in the message here. So I wonder, when Jesus is saying that, now he is speaking to at that moment, he's speaking to the disciples. He's talking to those who in Israel. But that can be a universal statement when he said any man. So does that apply to anybody or just the Jews he was talking to? Well, they're the only ones that heard it at the time. But any man can be any man. I don't think he was confining it. He was confined to them. But it can be an any man. It can be an any man statement, which means it can be a universal statement, even though it spoke to specific people. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
2 Timothy 2:12 through 13. If we suffer, we shall also reign with him. If we deny him, he also will deny us. If we believe not, yet he abideth faithful. He cannot deny himself.
That's a good verse. If we suffer, we will also reign with him. Now, what does that mean, if we suffer? Suffer the loss? Romans 8:16 say, for the suffering is
of this present time.
Romans 8:18, yes, for the suffering of this present time is not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed within us. Mm-hmm. So that means what you're going through is no comparison with what you get after it's over. Mm-hmm. So, but the problem is, very few of us want to enter that type of suffering. So in this case, I see Paul is saying something very similar.
FOMO 2.0 makes our revelation of sonship of little or no effect. We can sell it, but not own it. Please hear and understand the words I'm saying. We are all in the same box identity, but we don't all have to live as our box identity in FOMO 2.0.
Let me say it differently. We all live in a body, but we don't all have to live after the body we live in. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're saying here. FOMO 2.0 makes our revelation of sonship of little or no effect. In other words, you might have sonship down. But if you can't own, if you in FOMO 2.0, then you don't own it. You don't own that.
You're trying to hold on to you in the flesh.
Not trying to, you are. And you can't. I mean, yeah, you can. You can spend. That's people who've known that Christ lives in them for years and years and say it. Jesus lives in me. Christ in me, the hope of glory. And they're the same people with that statement tacked onto their knowledge.
That sounds like two-person gospel.
It is a two-person gospel. The problem is to say it's a two-person gospel and to know what that means are two different things. Now, I can tell someone who might say, Christ lives in me, I'm a new creation in Christ, Jesus is my life, he's my only life. Those words are powerful words. They're good words. What does that mean? What does that mean, Christ in me, the hope of glory? Christ is your life, your only life. What does that mean? How do you, what makes you believe that you're actually living that? Well, he comes out of me as he is. So what does that do for you? Where are you in that? Because FOMO 2.0 makes you survive and add Christ to it, to that survival. He makes you survive as you.
Sounds like two-person gospel.
It is.
Me and Jesus.
Correct.
And Christ.
It is me and Jesus. No matter how you say it, it's still me and Jesus.
Which is a new wrapping of an old self instead of
the improved self.
Yeah.
An improved self, yes. So FOMO 2.0, beloved, keeps us there. You do, believe me, you'll do anything you can, consciously or subconsciously, to keep being you. You will get up in the morning and you'll do the same thing. You'll react the same way. You get offended at the same thing. I remember one time a brother said something to me, and he said, what he said, well, he made a statement. I was with a couple other people, and he made this statement. He used some profanity or something. He said, oh, David, I'm sorry. I know you're a minister, so I don't mean to. I said, brother, you didn't offend me. He said, well, man, I know you're a believer and you're a minister in the Lord, and I didn't mean to offend you. I said, brother, your words can't offend me. You didn't offend me. To do that, you'd have to destroy my birthday. You can't do that. They never heard anything like that. So people around me cursing and using obscenities, I'm not offended with that. How can you stand that? They're not talking to me. They don't injure me. Think about what Jesus was. The people he was around. Think about the people Paul was around. Mm-hmm. Again, that's FOMO 2.0. We can't go places God wants us to go. We can't live the person he wants us to live. Because we have to protect the one that we love most, who I am in the flesh, with Jesus added to it. Okay.
Yep. Romans 4:14. For if they which are of the law be heirs, faith is made void, and the promise made of none effect.
That's okay. You don't have to go through that. Let's skip to the next paragraph. You can go. Let's read Philippians 3, and then we'll go to the next one.
Philippians 3:7-8. But what things were gained to me, those I counted loss for Christ. Yea, doubtless. And I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ Jesus my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Christ.
There's a lot I can say on that, but I'm not. Paul has just made a statement about FOMO 2.0 not having an impact on him. He's not trying to maintain where he came from. He's not trying to maintain how he grew up, how bad his mom and his daddy treated him. His sisters and brothers kicked him when he was down. All.
And actually what he talks about is how wonderful he was. He's a Pharisee of
Pharisees,
Benjamin
tribe.
Right.
He talked about how good he lived.
Yeah.
And that's some of them who had good religious upbringing. You put a lot into that. I grew up in the church.
I'm not going to give up all the beautiful good I am. And I think that's a bigger, harder thing to give up.
True. I raised my children in the church. I grew up in the church. Okay. What value is that? I won't go into that. That's another. I've been down that road before. Let's keep going. I want to get to this other stuff.
Everyone who is stuck in FOMO 2.0 has to create their own environment to live and move, and their own identity goes with them wherever they go, even into heaven. They create their own personal heaven to accept their own personal identity and the identity of those who they deem worthy of entering their heaven. This is one reason many don't know or understand the harpazo, rapture. They cannot receive or believe the body they live in is not who they are spiritually. And sadly, they don't get to live any longer as themselves in FOMO 2.0. Think what it would be like if their personal identity in heaven was real. Think for a second. What would that look like?
Let me tell you what that would look like. Let me tell you what that would look like. I was talking to someone a few weeks ago about the rapture. And they could not, as much as they understood spiritual things, as much as they understood the revelation of Christ, as much as they've been a part of the revelation of Christ, FOMO 2.0 will not allow you to be anywhere else but with the body you know as you. Now think about that. So heaven has to be part of you and the body you know as you, because you can't get there without you. That's why I understand Paul's statement, if the house of this earthly tabernacle shall be dissolved, I have another house not made with hands eternal in heaven. Hey, we don't get that. We can't get that. And as Dwight mentioned to me last month or so, we were talking about this. He skipped down to verse 8 where it says, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. That's spontaneous. To be absent, the minute you leave, you're present. So we don't get that because we've got to take us with us. So he was saying to me, he said these words, he said, maybe Paul didn't quite understand what he meant. And I said, do you hear what you just said? If that's true, then nothing Paul says, everything Paul says can be taken from that understanding. What the problem is, you can't understand it, so therefore Paul might not understood what he was saying. I guarantee you Paul understood what he was saying. Now, he might not have said everything he saw because the Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, 2 Corinthians chapter 12, he couldn't say everything God showed him to say. But Paul understood what he's saying. And our problem is we say we try to find a way of escape for the flesh, 2.0. We find a way of escape. And the way to do that is make a heaven that fits us.
Right.
Now think about this. If you took you to heaven, who would be there? Well, just the people you like.
All the people I want there.
Everybody you want in your little heaven.
And our dogs.
And if you're dogs and you got dogs and cats or gerbils, you take them with you. How about this? How about the people you don't want?
You don't want them there.
They don't go there, so they go to hell. How many times I've
They
seen?
just don't go into heaven where I am at. They just don't go in.
Well, they just don't go into heaven where I am. Jesus don't let them in. Jesus take the wheel. Lock the door. Don't let them in. They got their own little heaven. But what about this? I've heard this said before. I hope you burn in hell. Not only do we have a heaven to put them in, now we got a hell to put them in. A burning hell. So again, that's FOMO 2.0 at its full extent. You have to have a heaven. Now, there's two verses here that I use in Revelation 7 and 17 and Revelation 21:4. Revelation 7:17 says, the Lamb which was in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and they shall lead them unto living fountains of water, and God shall wipe away all their tears from their eyes. In 21:4, it says, and God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes, which is a repeat of 7:17. And there shall be no more death, no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Now let me give you an idea of FOMO 2.0 and the personal identity that goes with heaven. Thank you, Jim. I've used this before, and I'm just going to use it again. For those of you who haven't heard it, those who have heard it, I'm just going to add a little twist to it. You have somebody that maybe got their home broken into, or their child was snatched up off the street and kidnapped.
Or how about you yourself were murdered? That's what puts you up in heaven.
Well, I want it to be apart from you. I want it because that's important. So if something happens to one of your children, or somebody does something to them, things have happened. These things have happened in these days, in these last days. But you die and you go to be with the Lord in heaven, and there you find your child. Now, what you didn't know was you saw that person get executed in the electric chair. What you didn't see was they received Christ. They said, Lord, I'm sorry, or whatever they say, and they received Christ. And lo and behold, they're in the Father's house along with everybody else that received Christ. So what do you have? Well, Mama and Daddy meet up with the child in heaven, and they just, oh, I'm just so glad to see you. I've been waiting for years to get here with you. And all of a sudden, along walked the guy that did the crime. And I can just see the parents looking up and say, Jesus, do you know who he is? Do you know what he did? He don't belong here. That doesn't fit our personal identity and our heaven we created. Or how about this? Grandma or Aunt Susie or Uncle Bob or Grandpa, my brother or sister who went on, my mother, that's a good example. Mothers are just tremendous. My mother, and so when we get to heaven and we're looking and we can't find Mom. We're going around looking, going from place to place, flying around with our little wings. We got to have wings because everybody thinks in heaven we got wings. We go from place to place and we can't find. So we go to the throne and say, Jesus, I can't find Mom. I can't find Grandma. Where are they? So Jesus looks over at Gabriel and says, hey, Gabriel, check the book. Gabriel picks up the book. Let me see. Well, I can't find him in the book. The person looks up at Jesus and says, Jesus, she took me to church. She read the Bible for me. She took care of me when I was sick. She birthed me into the world. What do you mean her name is not in the book? You mean she's not here? That means she's, oh no, she can't be there. According to Revelation 21:4, there'd be crying, there'd be sadness, sorrow, there'd be pain. And those things, according to Revelation 21:4, does not exist. That all comes with FOMO 2.0 and your personal identity that you're protecting. Now you might say, well, I don't believe all of that. I believe whoever's going to be there is going to be there. Now God's already fixed it, so read this next line.
Where are we?
Here, under Revelation 24.
21:4, Revelation 21:4. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away.
You read that.
The heaven they want, they can't have. And the heaven they already have, they don't want.
Let me say it again. The heaven they want, they can't have. Their own personal heaven that's created by them in FOMO 2.0. So the heaven they want, they can't have. And the heaven they already have, they don't want. They don't want to be in a place that they can't see mama and daddy and uncle and grandma and grandpa. They don't want that because it doesn't fit their identity. I don't want you to read the verses here in that. That's good. That was good verse, but let's keep going. The longer we live.
The longer we live in FOMO 2.0, the longer we remain in spiritual immaturity. Because spiritual growth will not take place with Bible reading, good prayer, good fasting, good helping others, good preaching, good teaching, good having revelations, good spiritual. Spiritual maturity takes place only when love swallows up your safe place of FOMO 2.0. The pulls of FOMO 2.0 are washed away by the mystery, revelation, and process of sonship. There is an old saying that says, you can't escape your past, or your past will catch up with you sooner or later. They are true, but they are not the truth.
The truth is, old things pass away when you die to who you are in your biological identity, and you become another person, living as a son of God in a body that you were given. Keep going.
The past is the future if the present is past. Making a decision outside of FOMO 2.0. Hebrews 3:15. While it is said, "Today, if ye hear his voice, harden not your heart, as in the provocation."
That's good. Don't read anymore. Let's go to
Let's look at what Paul says. No, what Paul tells us in Philippians chapter 2, 5 through 8. The power to live above FOMO 2.0. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, and took on the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. All these verses are precious and powerful, but the one verse which takes the lead and reveals the power over FOMO 2.0 is verse 7. Let's pluck this verse out. Let's pull this verse out and review what the Spirit is saying. Philippians 2:7. But made himself of no reputation, and took on the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men.
So let's look at this for just 1 second. Now, I want to preface this by verse 5 when he said, "Let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus." Now, many have taken that to mean that being the mind of Christ. That's not what Paul is saying in this verse at all. You can interpret that, and many have interpreted that for many, many years. But he didn't say that was the mind of Christ. He said, "Let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus." Let this mind be in you. What mind is that? Because it's the same mind, he said, that was in Christ, or way of thinking. So let this way of thinking be in you that was also in Christ Jesus. So Christ had a way of thinking so that you can have a way of thinking. You have a mind, and he has a mind, but they're not the same. He's not saying we have a mind of Christ in this at all. So I want to touch that first. But I want to get into verse 7. Let's look at those quickly. It says, there are a few key words in this verse which can help us see our escape from FOMO 2.0. So in verse 7, the word I want you to look at is the word made. That word, the Greek word for that word made in that verse is kinos, or a short for kenosis. It means to empty, to make empty. It means to make void, deprive of force, render vain, useless, of no effect. To make void, to cause a thing to be and seen as to be emptied, hollow, or false. So, made. It says, but made himself. So that's something Jesus did. There was something working in him that caused him to make himself or be made himself. He made himself. So for us, he is telling you as a believer, you need to do something. I think Jimmy was telling me this the other day, and he was quoting Kurtis when it says that if there's a from, there's a to. So he's going from to. He made himself of no reputation. The word reputation is the same word, kunos again, meaning the same thing that it is before. So he himself made. He himself became, he became to himself no reputation. He emptied his identity to take on an identity. And the word became flesh. Ours is the opposite. Ours is the opposite. And took on the form of a servant. Now, the word form in that is the word morphe. And that means, we've heard that, I think Kurtis did that before, and we talked about this before. It means a form by which a person or a thing strikes the vision, external appearance, shape, figuratively of nature. So he said, and took on the form, which means, what did he look like? It says something that strikes the vision, an external appearance. So his reputation, being of no reputation, and took on the form, the outer appearance, the expression, or the external appearance of someone else. What was that someone else? A servant. And took on the form of a servant. Now, I looked up the word servant years ago. I used to talk about that every now and then. I talk about that, but I looked it up in this particular verse, and the definition of that word servant in this verse said denotes devoted to another, to the disregard of one's own interests, to the disregard of one's own interests, one who gives himself up to another's will, to bind or to tie or to fast, and made himself of no reputation and took on the form of someone who gave disregard to their own interests. Well, that's not FOMO 2.0. You not only made yourself, you emptied yourself of your biological identity, and you've taken on an appearance that's external appearance that appears out of you spiritually, but on top of that, your interest now is not yours. You're not interested in what's best for you. What's in it for me? That's what the term is nowadays. Well, okay, I do that, but what's in it for me? Mm-hmm. What's in it for me? Well, it says here the word a servant, one who gives himself up to another's will. John chapter 5, I think it's John 5:25. I'm pretty sure it's John 5:25, but it's in that range of 5:25 to 5:30. Jesus said, "For I came not to do my will, but the will of the Father who sent me." I came not to do my will, but the will of the Father who sent me. That sounds to me like who gives himself up to another's will. Okay? And that verse says, and was made in the likeness of men. That word made is different than the word made in the first part of the verse, which is kino. This word is genomai, to become. To become. To become what? It also means, not only does it mean to become, it means to give, to come into existence. Now, that's kind of a nice way to look at it, to come into existence. So therefore, if you're already a biological person, if you already have, how then can you come into existence unless the person that you are no longer exists? Mm-hmm. To come into existence, to begin to be, to receive being, to become, to come to pass, to arise, appear in history, to come upon the stage. The Son of God as you arises and comes upon the stage of this world. Your environment, wherever that environment is, it could be up in Idaho, it could be in Chicago, it could be in Oregon, it could be in Utah, Texas, no matter where it is, you rise and come upon the stage to live as the Son. But you can't do that if you have a reputation. You see, in FOMO 2.0, you need to have a reputation as you. Mm-hmm. You need to protect you. You live in such fear, everything offends you. You got to protect you. You got to defend. You got to pretend. You got to defend how you grew up. You got to defend the things you believed. You got to defend all those things that you learned back in Sunday school class or in Bible college. I was there. I know back in the day, I love that stuff. But there come a time we need to lay those things aside. Why? Okay. And in the likeness I've got the word likeness here. Yes, the word likeness means that which has been made after a likeness of something, a figure, an image, a representation, such as amounts almost to equality or identity. Identity. So verse 7 to me, and I'm going further, that verse 7 sticks out in my mind. Because verse 7 takes the whole idea of the process of sonship and sets it before you. You have a part in that. Spiritual maturity, you have a part. Spiritual maturity requires something from you. It requires receiving, believing, and obeying. Without that, you don't grow. I don't care how long you pray, how much you read your Bible, how much revelation you had. You need obedience that works by love. You need that. You need to own some things. With that said, I'm going to go to the last part here. This is just a few examples toward the bottom. That's at the bottom, Jim. There's just a few examples. I've got 3 here. I'm going to do it right quick because my time is running out. The drunk or the drug addict. Some of you heard me say this before. Catherine told me, I've told her the other day. She said, yeah, I've heard this before. But for those of you who haven't heard it, you see this person, and they're drunk or an alcoholic or a drug addict, and you see them walking the streets every day. You see them on the street corners. You see them staggering from whatever the substance they're on. And you're in your house one night, and the knock on the door, and you go to the door, and you open the door, and guess who it is? It's this drunk or drug addict telling you something, and they say to you, hey, your house is on fire. You look around, you don't see any fire, you don't smell any smoke, and you slam the door and say, get out of here. He said, I'm telling you, your house is on fire. But I don't believe you. So you close the door on them, turn off the lights, get in bed, house burns down, and you die. Why? Because a thing we do in 2.0, we take the message and the messenger and make them the same. We throw out the messenger because we don't want to hear the message. So if the messenger is bad, guess what? The message is too. So in 2.0, fear tells you they want to keep you from being you. That you know more than them. You don't want to hear that. So you take the message and make it of no effect because you tied it to the messenger, which two are the same. They're not the same. They're not the same. Throw out the messenger. Keep the message. Next. Tell her not to teach. I was told that. I was praying in my little prayer closet once, and the Father said to me, I want you to tell so-and-so they want to teach. And they said they wanted to teach all their life, but they were doing they were in another profession, and they wanted to teach. And the opportunity came for them to teach. That was their heart's desire to teach. And I understood that. I followed that. I told them, that's very good. I never knew that about you. He said, yeah, I've always wanted to teach. So the Father, I was praying, and he said, tell them not to teach. And I said, oh, no. I said, Father, they're not going to listen to me. He said, well, if I set it up for you and put it where you can talk to them, would you tell them not tell them what I said? I said, yeah, if you do that, I'll be glad to tell them that. Because I didn't want to mess with them. 2.0. I'm talking about me in 2.0. And so he set it up for me, and one night he said, go to them and sit down with them and talk to them. So I did. I sat down with them. I told them exactly what the Father gave me to say. And I had a little hesitancy in there. And they looked at me, calm and collective. And I said, you going to do what God said do? And they said, no, and I lost it. I said, God's going to, so help me. I said, God's going to get you for that. Oh, my Lord. So I was talking to the Father in my little prayer closet, and he said, will you give them to me now? I said, yeah, you can have them. He said, now I want you to go and apologize to him for how you acted. I said, but Father, you told me to tell him that. He said, yeah, you told him exactly what I wanted you to tell him. But you did it in your flesh. Oh, man. So I went to him. I saw him. I went to him. I said, I need to tell you I apologize. No, he said, tell you apologize not for what you said, but how you said it. So I went to them and I gave him, I said, the Father had me to tell me to tell you that I'm sorry. I need to apologize for how I said it, but I did. What I said was true. How I said it was not as good as it should have been because I was in my flesh. And they said, okay, and we went on. Well, later on that week, Thursday, that was a Sunday, on Thursday I saw them, and they came to me and said, you know, the Father said, I need not to teach, I need to do this, this, and this, and this. And I'm thinking while they're telling me this, I told them that. I said that. They just saying it. But I never said that. I never opened my mouth. And they never said anything about me. See, they never said anything about that's what you told me was right. What you told me was exactly what the Father said. None of that came out. Wasn't supposed to. That Saturday night, I was laying at home on the floor listening to some Maranatha praise, and I was thinking about that, and he said, you know why they didn't say anything about you? I said, no. Back then, I was learning. When Father asked me, I was learning. I was young enough, open enough to know. When he said, do you know, I knew I didn't know. I'd come to a place in him where when he asked questions, I didn't know. So I did say that. He said, because I'm going to send you to people with things I give you to say. He said, they're going to reject what you say, but remember, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me. And that moved me deeply. Matter of fact, so much so, I laid down on the floor and started to cry. That broke me from the 2.0 needing to have people say things that I said to them. If they don't receive it, that's between them and the Father. It used to be that way with Warren. The Father was giving me fresh revelation all the time. I was the only one there in North Dakota that was seeing these things. And every time somebody would say something, well, that's just Lisman. You're just repeating Lisman. And I used to try to defend. No, I haven't seen that, brother. And God, I was so 2.0 trying to protect me, wanting to defend my identity. And the Father had to stop me and say, you need to stop that. Do you see what you're doing? My significance was in what he was saying to me versus the truth that was being spoken. So I had to stop saying that. If they said Warren would say that, he might have said that. So I had to learn these things. Last one here is Pete. Well, not Pete. I was talking to Pete, and he said I could do it, so I'm talking about Pete. We were talking about FOMO 2.0, and I was going over some things similar to what we were saying, and Pete said to me on the phone, he said, I've been listening to you for the last 10 minutes, and the Father is showing me that I'm in 2.0. He said, my fear is confrontation. He says, I fear confrontation. And I said, brother, I've known that. But I'm glad you said the Father told you because it's coming from him. He said, so that's what he's dealing with me. He's going to have to deal with me on this FOMO 2.0 in confrontation. That means every time something is said, something is done, there's a pullback within him. He pulls back instead of saying whatever the Father gives him to say. It is more easier to avoid the conflict than it is to speak the truth. But that's between him and the Father. So Pete, thank you for being able to share that with those who might look at this video and not know you. But for even those who know you can see what the Father is doing in the process of sonship. The first thing that needs to happen before we can make ourselves a reputation is own it. The thing I'm excited about with Pete, he owned that. That's the first step. You own it. Most of us can't own that. We can't own those things. He did. And Jimmy has said that before. Last one is Revelation of Christ and the Power of 2.0, FOMO 2.0. I was talking to a dear brother, and I asked him if I could do it. I wasn't going to use his name. He said, go ahead on. He's had a revelation of Christ. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. Those of you who don't, that's fine, because I don't want to use his name. But he's had a revelation of Christ. God has separated him, as Paul said in Galatians chapter 1, when it pleased God who separated me from my mother's womb. In other words, separated me from my biological identity and called me by his faith to reveal his son in me, or son as me, in that verse in Galatians chapter 1. But this brother saw his body separated, and he struggles with the harpazo. What do I do with my body? What's going to happen to me? And the Father gave me at that moment. He said, how can I be in two places? I said, you're not going to be in two places at one time. He couldn't wrap his mind around it. And so I said to him, I said, you remember the revelation of Christ? He said, yes. I said, you remember you were laying on the floor? He said, I wasn't laying on the floor. I was sitting in the chair, and I was slumped over in the chair like he was praying. I said, the real you, spiritually, the son that you are, you were looking at this body, correct? He said, yes. I said, was it dead? He said, no. I said, were you alive? He said, yes. I was standing watching it. I said, so if you were standing watching it, you wasn't in two places. You were in one place. That's why he could be apart from the body he lived in, because he hadn't been given his new one. And it's the same thing. And you guys heard the revelation of Christ that I've shared. Mine was a little bit more intense. Had a lot more things the Father gave, but it's the same revelation. Dwight had the same thing. Dwight and I talked Wednesday. He had the same thing. He was looking at his body. So I'm telling you, just because we have the revelation does not mean FOMO 2.0 is not relevant to you. You can have that revelation, and you can still be in FOMO 2.0, because he wanted to protect his biological identity, and he wanted to take it with him. That's what some of you want to do. You want to take it with you. Last verse. Let's read this last verse, Catherine.
1 Corinthians 13, 10 through 12. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as I am known.
So let me leave it up, Jim. So let me give you this right quickly, that dealing with FOMO 2.0 in this. Paul said, when that which is perfect is come, that which is in part is done away with it. All that means spiritually is when your complete identity comes, the part that you are biologically will be done away. You won't struggle with FOMO 2.0. That won't be your struggle. He said, when I was a child, I thought, and all that word in this text, to make it simple for us to understand, that word child, those three places in that verse, in verse 11, it just means ignorant or immature. So when I was ignorant or immature, I spake as someone ignorant and immature. I understood as someone immature. I thought as immature, but when I became mature as a son of God, I put away immature identity. He said, and for now we look through glasses, and that word does mean mirror or foggy. They used to use a piece of metal back in those days, in Paul's days, that they used shiny metal to look at, so the image was kind of distorted. But Paul said this, but then, face to face with God. At first I thought years ago when Father first gave me this, and I had to lay that aside over time, I thought it meant when I look in that mirror of the Spirit, I will see myself and I'll know me as I am known in that mirror. But I'm seeing that differently. I saw it differently later on. He made clarity. What I'm seeing is the face of my Father. We be conformed to the image of the Son, and the image of the Son is the image of the Father. But then, Son to Father, now I know in part, biologically, but then shall I know even as I am known. By who? By the Father. He takes the Son and reveals the Son to him. So anyway, that's it for FOMO 2.0. I trust that you'll get out of this what the Father has. I'll attach these notes, the new notes, to the message when I send it out today. If we have one, I'm hoping we have one. If not, you're going to have to take my word for it and just and look at it from the notes. But anyway, once again, thank you guys. Next Sunday, we got a treat for you. Brother Dwight is coming back. And his message is on knowing the Father. I was reading the notes this week. As a matter of fact, I was reading it this morning before I started the message. I got a couple of things I saw in that really struck me that I want to talk to him about. I like some of the things on his notes. But anyway, Brother Dwight Davis will be with you next Sunday. So we'd love to hear what he has to say about knowing the Father. We thank you guys for joining us this week in Sunday Fellowship. Happy Easter, and have a blessed week.